You may have felt it late at night, not as a thought, exactly, but as a weight, a peculiar heaviness that settles in the chest when you're alone with yourself. It's the feeling of carrying something that no longer belongs to you, something you outgrew years ago but still haul around, like luggage from a trip you've already forgotten taking. There is something quietly exhausting about being a person for a long time. We accumulate versions of ourselves the way a river accumulates sediment. The ambitious version from 10 years ago, the version that made that terrible choice, the version that believed something you no longer believe, the version that tried so hard to be liked. They don't disappear. They linger like ghosts in the rooms of memory, and we carry them with us into every new day, every new relationship, every new version of ourselves we attempt to become. And so we ask the question that brings you here tonight, to this exact moment, listening to these words. How do we shed this? How do we escape it? How do we destroy the person we used to be, and finally become free? The title itself contains a violence, doesn't it? Destroy. It's a word that carries force, aggression, a kind of desperate urgency, and that urgency is real. You feel it. Many of us do. The gentle, incremental approach to change, the slow accumulation of small habits, the patient meditation, the gradual self-improvement. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enough. Sometimes we need to burn it all down. We need to feel the radical break, the complete rupture with who we were. We need to know that we are not just tweaking the old version. We are creating something entirely new. This impulse is not wrong. It's not a flaw in your thinking. It's actually a profound instinct. Deep within you, something is calling you toward a genuine self-transformation. Something is whispering that you don't belong entirely in the prison of your own past, that there is a freer version of you waiting to be born. That is not weakness or delusion. That is wisdom. But here is the gentle question I want to offer you. What if the path to this rebirth is not what we have been taught? What if the violence we imagine, the destruction, the burning down, the complete erasure, is actually a misunderstanding of something far more profound? What if the ancient wisdom of Taoism teaches us that the deepest personal growth, the most authentic new beginning, comes not from fighting against ourselves, but from something far simpler and yet far more powerful, from letting go? Think about it for a moment. When you feel the urge to destroy your past self, what are you really feeling? Are you feeling the need to obliterate yourself? Or are you feeling the need to be released from something that no longer fits? Are you fighting against yourself? Or are you fighting against the weight you've been carrying? These are not the same thing. The word destroy carries connotations of violence, of warfare, of self-aggression. But what if we could reframe this impulse entirely? What if the transformation you're seeking is not an act of violence at all, but an act of profound gentleness? What if destroying your past self is actually the most natural thing in the world? As natural as a river flowing downhill, as natural as a tree shedding its leaves in autumn? This is where Taoism enters our story. Not as another self-help philosophy, not as another system of rules to follow or boxes to check, but as a profound recognition of how life actually works when we stop fighting it. Taoism is not a religion of effort and struggle. It is a wisdom of flow, of ease, of returning to our authentic nature, and it speaks directly to the yearning you feel. You see, we have been conditioned to believe that change your life means becoming more disciplined, more successful, more refined, more impressive. We think personal growth means building upon ourselves, carving ourselves into increasingly elaborate and sophisticated forms. We think a new beginning requires us to construct an entirely new identity to replace the old one. But what if this is backwards? What if the path to genuine self-transformation is not about becoming more, but about becoming less? Not about adding, but about subtracting. Not about constructing a new self, but about unraveling the false self we've built? This is the heart of what we're going to explore together. This is the path that Taoism illuminates, and by the end of our time together, I believe you will feel differently about your past, your present, and the person you are becoming. You won't feel the need to destroy yourself. Instead, you will understand that you are already being destroyed, or rather, that the old versions of you are already dissolving, like water returning to water. And when you stop fighting that process, when you surrender to it, when you allow it to happen, you will discover something extraordinary. You were never trapped. You were only resisting. The person you are desperately trying to escape, they are not your enemy. They are a ghost that only has power because you keep feeding it with your attention and your resistance. And the person you want to become, they are not someone you need to build. They are someone you need to uncover. They are already beneath everything else, waiting patiently for you to stop making so much noise. This is the rebirth that is actually possible. Not a violent death and resurrection, but a gentle awakening. Not the destruction of your past self, but the simple release of it. Not a new beginning in the sense of erasing what came before, but a new beginning in the sense of finally understanding what has always been true. And the guide for this journey? An ancient wisdom tradition that understood the fundamental nature of change, flow, and authentic identity better than perhaps any philosophy in history. The Tao. Let me introduce you to an idea that might transform how you understand your entire life. Imagine a river. This river has been flowing for thousands of years. It has taken countless bends and turns. It has flowed through rocky canyons and wide valleys. It has been clear, and it has been muddy. It has been gentle, and it has been fierce. And yet, at every moment, it remains perfectly true to its nature. It does not struggle against the rocks. It does not fight the terrain. It simply flows, and in flowing, it eventually wears down the mountains and finds its way to the sea. The Tao is like this river. The word Tao is often translated as the way, but not in the sense of a path you must walk or a destination you must reach. Rather, it is the fundamental underlying flow of reality itself. It is the way the universe moves. It is the way life unfolds. It is the pattern by which all things naturally organize themselves when they are not being forced into unnatural shapes. When you observe nature without human interference, you see the Tao at work. The tree does not think about how to grow. It simply grows, responding to sun and soil and season. The bird does not calculate the aerodynamics of flight. It simply flies, in perfect harmony with the air. The seasons do not struggle to change. They change, each at its appointed time, in perfect sequence. This is Wu Wei, effortless action, the action that is no action, and we will return to this essential concept. But here's where our suffering enters the picture. We human beings, uniquely in the natural world, have developed the capacity to resist the Tao. We have built dams against the river. We have carved rigid structures and identities and expectations, and we have locked ourselves inside them. We have taken the natural, flowing river of our lives and forced it into concrete channels that have nothing to do with our authentic nature. And then we wonder why we feel trapped. This is what has happened with your past self. And you are not actually stuck in the past. The past is gone. It has flowed downstream like water. But you have built a dam in your consciousness. And on this dam, you have carved a rigid identity. You tell yourself, I am the kind of person who made that mistake. I am the kind of person who believes this. I am the kind of person who did that. You have frozen a moment in time, given it concrete form, and declared it to be you. But it's not you. It's just a dam, and you can let it go. Now, I want to introduce you to one of the most profound concepts in Taoist philosophy, because it speaks directly to this situation. It's called the uncarved block, or, in Chinese, the piu. Imagine a piece of wood, fresh from the forest, simple, whole, full of potential. A craftsman looks at this wood and sees all the things he could carve it into. a chair, a statue, a mask, a door. And so he begins to carve. He removes wood here, adds detail there. And over time, this simple, whole block becomes a specific thing. A chair, a statue, whatever the craftsman envisioned. But in becoming something specific, it has lost something essential. It has become rigid. Its potential has been narrowed. It can only be what it has been carved to be. The Taoist sage looks at the uncarved block and sees something precious. They see wholeness. They see unlimited potential. They see the freedom that comes from not being locked into a single form. This is a metaphor for who we are. We are born as uncarved blocks. We are whole, open, full of potential. And then the world begins to carve us. Our parents carve, our teachers carve, society carves, and we carve ourselves based on what we think we should be, what we think will make us loved, or successful, or safe. Layer by layer, carving after carving, we become a specific thing. We become a version of ourselves. And at first, this is fine. This carving is necessary for survival. You need to develop some structure, some shape, some way of navigating the world. But after a time, after many years of carving, something happens. We wake up one day and realize that the form we've been carved into no longer fits. It doesn't match who we actually are. It doesn't allow us to flow with life. It traps us. And so we feel the desperate urge to destroy something. But what we're really feeling is the urge to return to the uncarved block. We want to sand away all the carvings and find that simple, whole, authentic form beneath. Here's the crucial insight. This is not about destroying yourself. This is about unbecoming what you are not. When you say you want to destroy your past self, what you're really saying is, I want to stop pretending to be the person I carved myself into. I want to remember who I actually am beneath all these carvings. I want to return to wholeness. And here's the beautiful part. This is actually your deepest nature calling to you. Deep within you, you have never forgotten the uncarved block. You have never fully accepted the rigid form. Some part of you has remained stubbornly whole, and it keeps sending you signals. It creates the restlessness, the dissatisfaction, the yearning. It whispers, this is not really you. There is something more true beneath this. That voice is not your enemy. That is wisdom. Now, how do we actually accomplish this unbecoming? How do we sand away these carvings and return to the block? This is where we must introduce the most essential concept in all of Taoist philosophy for navigating change: Wu Wei. Wu Wei literally means non-action or non-doing. But this is deeply misunderstood in the West. People often interpret it as passivity, as laziness, as simply doing nothing and hoping things work out. This is precisely backwards. Wu Wei is not the absence of action. It is action that is in perfect harmony with the flow of life. It is action that arises naturally from being in alignment with the Tao, rather than action that is forced, effortful, driven by ego and willpower, and the constant grinding effort to become something you're not. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you are a musician, and you are trying to play a difficult passage. If you approach it through force and willpower alone, grinding through it, tensing your muscles, forcing each note, the music will sound rigid, artificial, strained. There is tension in every note, because there is tension in your body and mind. But imagine instead that you have practiced this passage so thoroughly, so patiently, that it begins to flow naturally. Your fingers know where to go. Your body remembers. And when you play, there is ease. There is flow. Each note emerges not through force, but through being perfectly aligned with the music itself. This is Wu Wei. The action is still there, but the struggle is gone. Or imagine a gardener. The gardener does not pull on the seedlings to make them grow faster. That would be force. and it would destroy the plant. Instead, the gardener creates the right conditions: good soil, proper water, sunlight. And then the gardener allows the plants to grow on their own, in their own time, according to their own nature. This is Wu Wei. The gardener is acting, but the action is in harmony with the nature of growth itself. This is the secret to letting go of your past self. You do not destroy it through force. You do not wage war against it. You do not use willpower and discipline to beat it into submission. All of that creates struggle, tension, and resistance. And resistance is what keeps the past self alive. Every time you fight against who you were, you are feeding it with energy. You are keeping it real, keeping it present, keeping it alive. Instead, Wu Wei suggests something entirely different. It suggests that you stop feeding it with your resistance. This is where mindfulness enters the picture, though not in the way it is often taught in the West. True mindfulness, in the Taoist sense, is not about controlling your thoughts or managing your mind. It is about creating an open awareness, a space of non-resistance in which your thoughts and emotions and memories can simply be what they are, without you fighting them or judging them or trying to change them. Imagine a memory surfaces, something you did that you're ashamed of, something your old self did that you don't want to identify with anymore. Your instinct is to fight it, to push it away, to tell yourself, that wasn't really me. I'm different now. And in pushing against it, you create tension, you create resistance, and that resistance keeps you locked in a struggle with your past. But what if you did something different? What if, instead of fighting the memory, you simply observed it? There is a memory. There is a feeling of shame. There is a judgment about that past self. You notice it all, but you don't fight it. You don't try to change it. You don't grip it. You simply allow it to be present, the way you allow a cloud to move across the sky. And when you do this, when you stop fighting, something extraordinary happens. The memory loses its power. The shame begins to dissolve. The past self begins to release its hold on you, not because you destroyed it, but because you stopped resisting it. You created space for it, and in that space, it naturally begins to flow away, like water finding its way downstream. This is what it means to let go. Now, here's where I want to introduce one more essential Taoist concept, because it explains why this works and why it is so powerful. It's the concept of emptiness, or Kong. In Western thinking, we tend to see emptiness as negative. An empty room is a room that lacks something. An empty life is a life without purpose. Emptiness is something to be filled up, solved, corrected. But in Taoist philosophy, emptiness is not a lack. Emptiness is potential. Emptiness is freedom. Emptiness is the space in which transformation becomes possible. The Tao Te Ching, the foundational text of Taoism, makes this beautiful observation. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. The usefulness of a cup is not the cup itself, but the empty space that allows it to hold water. The usefulness of a room is not the walls, but the empty space that allows us to move and live within it. The usefulness of a wheel is not the material of the wheel, but the empty hub at the center that allows it to turn. In other words, emptiness is not absence. Emptiness is the most essential and useful thing of all. When you let go of your past self, you are creating this sacred emptiness. You are removing the carvings, the rigid structures, the fixed identity. And in doing so, you are not creating a void that must be desperately filled with something new. Rather, you are creating space, potential space, in which something authentic can naturally emerge. This is true spiritual growth. This is what rebirth actually means. Most people think rebirth means, I destroy the old self and immediately construct a brand new self to replace it. But this just continues the cycle of rigidity and carving. You've simply replaced one prison with another. True rebirth in the Taoist sense means, I create emptiness. I stop doing. I stop forcing. I stop trying to become something. And in that emptiness, in that releasing of effort, my authentic nature, which has been here all along buried beneath the carvings, naturally begins to emerge. It's not something you have to build. It's something you have to allow. And here's the most radical part. This authentic nature that emerges, it's not a fixed, final form either. It's not another carving to be locked into. It's fluid. It changes. It flows with the circumstances of your life. It is responsive, alive, awake. This is the true personal growth, not the accumulation of more and more rigid structure, but the development of greater and greater capacity to flow, to respond, to be alive in each moment. Let me offer you a radical reframing of your relationship with your past. You have likely been thinking of your past self as an enemy. It's the version of you that you want to escape, to overcome, to destroy. There's a war happening inside you, between who you were and who you want to be. And you're hoping that one day, the new you will finally vanquish the old you, and then you can rest. But what if this war is completely unnecessary? What if, instead of seeing your past self as an enemy, you could see it as something else entirely? Not as something to be destroyed, but as a part of your own journey, a previous stage of the river, a necessary bend that allowed the water to flow to where it is now? Think about the river again. A river doesn't hate the bends it has already passed through. It doesn't look back at a canyon it has flowed through and think, I must destroy that canyon. I must erase it from existence. The river simply moves forward. The water that flowed through the canyon yesterday is not trapped there. It has moved on. It has returned to the sea. And the river that flows today is not fighting against what came before. It is simply the next moment of the same flow. You can relate to your past self in exactly this way. Your past self made the choices it made with the understanding, the maturity, the resources, and the circumstances it had available at that time. In many cases, your past self did the best it could. And even when your past self made genuine mistakes, and we all do, those mistakes were part of the journey. They were part of what taught you. They were part of what shaped you. They were necessary. This does not mean that you need to identify with those choices forever. It does not mean you need to keep making those same mistakes. It means you can acknowledge the past with compassion rather than judgment. You can say, thank you, past self. I see what you were trying to do. I see the circumstances you were in. I understand why you made those choices. And I release you now. I let you go downstream. I don't need to carry you anymore. This is integration, not erasure. This is letting go, not destruction. When you do this, when you can genuinely thank your past self and release it, something shifts. The weight begins to lift. The ghost begins to fade. Not because you've destroyed it, but because you've finally stopped fighting it. And that release of resistance is what allows you to move forward with actual freedom. Now, I want to address something that might be troubling you. In contemporary culture, we are obsessed with the idea of constantly building ourselves. We speak about crafting your personal brand. We talk about reinventing yourself. We work hard to create an increasingly impressive, sophisticated, refined version of ourselves to present to the world. We believe that personal growth means constant accumulation. More skills, more credentials, more achievements, more refinement. And there is nothing wrong with developing skills or pursuing achievements. But here's the Taoist observation. This constant striving to build and refine and present a more impressive version of yourself is not the path to authentic identity. It is not the path to self-transformation in the deepest sense. It is, in fact, the path that deepens the prison. Each new carving, each new layer of sophistication and refinement further obscures the authentic, simple, whole nature beneath. Each new achievement and credential becomes another thing you have to protect, another thing you have to maintain, another identity to defend. The Taoist path is radically different. Instead of asking, How can I become more impressive? How can I build a better version of myself? It asks, how can I let go of this constant building? How can I become comfortable with simply being? This does not mean becoming lazy or giving up on growth. Rather, it means shifting the foundation of your growth. Instead of growth coming from external effort and willpower, it comes from internal alignment and authenticity. You stop asking, what should I be? And you start asking, what is my authentic nature? What wants to emerge through me? What am I actually called to do? When your actions arise from this place of internal alignment, rather than external striving, something remarkable happens. Life becomes easier. The constant grinding effort eases. You begin to experience what we might call spiritual growth. Not growth in the sense of accumulation, but growth in the sense of increasing alignment with your true nature. And here's the practical difference this makes. Let's say you have been carrying around a story about yourself. I am shy. I am anxious. I am not creative. I am not good with people. This story is a carving. It's a fixed identity that you've accepted. And because you've accepted it, you live within it. You make choices that reinforce it. I can't go to that social event because I'm shy. I can't try that creative project because I'm not creative. The typical approach to changing this is through force. You say, I am going to willpower my way into being outgoing. You push yourself to social events. You force yourself to create. And while this might work for a time, it requires constant effort. You are swimming upstream against your own self-concept. And often, when the willpower fades, you revert to the old pattern. But the Taoist approach is different. It's not about forcing yourself into a new identity through gritted teeth. It's about questioning the story itself. It's about asking, is this story actually true? Or is this just a carving I've accepted? A fixed idea about who I am? And here's what you discover. The story is not true. You are not fundamentally shy or anxious or uncreative. These are patterns, habits, conditioned responses, not essential truths about your nature. Your authentic nature is far more fluid and open than any story you've created about yourself. And when you genuinely understand this, you don't have to force yourself to change. You simply relax the resistance. You stop defending the old story. And when you stop defending it, your authentic nature naturally begins to emerge. This is what it means to practice Wu Wei in daily life. In a conversation, instead of approaching it with a fixed sense of who you are, I'm the kind of person who is quiet and doesn't speak up, you can relax into the actual conversation. You listen deeply. You respond authentically to what is actually being said, rather than filtering everything through your fixed identity. And you may find that sometimes you're quiet, sometimes you speak, sometimes you offer a joke, whatever is genuinely called for in that moment. You become responsive rather than reactive. In creative work, instead of staring at the blank page, gritting your teeth, forcing yourself to create through willpower, you might go for a walk. You might rest. You might do something else entirely. And then, when you return to the creative work, the ideas come more easily, because you've allowed space for them to emerge rather than trying to force them into being. In dealing with anxiety, instead of fighting the anxious thoughts, trying to suppress them or defeat them or convince yourself they're not real, you can observe them. Ah, there is anxiety. There is a thought about something bad happening. There is a physical sensation in my chest. You notice it all, without judgment, without resistance. And when you do this, the anxiety begins to lose its grip. It's like the clouds moving across the sky. If you don't grasp at them, they simply pass. All of these are applications of mindfulness in the Taoist sense, not as a technique to control your mind, but as a practice of creating an open, non-resistant awareness in which your authentic nature can naturally emerge. And here's what's remarkable. This approach actually works better and more deeply than the approach of forcing change through willpower and effort. Because when change comes from allowing rather than forcing, it's not temporary. It's not dependent on your willpower holding strong. It's genuine transformation, because it's rooted in a shift in understanding, a release of resistance, a return to authenticity. This is what true rebirth looks like, not the violent destruction of the old self and the forceful construction of a new self, not the endless effort of carving yourself into ever more impressive forms, but the gentle, powerful process of releasing what you are not, relaxing into what you actually are, and allowing your authentic nature to flow forward into a new beginning. Let me bring us home to the essential truth that I hope has been illuminated through our time together. That desperate urge you feel, the violent impulse to destroy your past self, is not a call to war. It's not an invitation to self-aggression or self-hatred. It is, in fact, a profound and beautiful call from your deepest nature. It is your authentic self trying to get your attention. It is the uncarved block, still whole beneath all the carvings, still calling out for recognition. And that call deserves to be answered, but not the way you've been taught to answer it. The path to the rebirth you seek is not through destruction, but through letting go. Not through fighting, but through releasing resistance. Not through building a new, more impressive prison, but through returning to the original wholeness that is already your nature. This is what Taoism teaches us. This is the path of Wu Wei, effortless action, action that flows from alignment rather than struggle. This is the practice of mindfulness as a sacred emptiness, a non-resistant awareness in which transformation naturally occurs. This is the wisdom of the uncarved block, the understanding that your truest nature is not something complex and elaborate, but something simple and whole that has been here all along. And here is the most liberating understanding of all. You don't have to perfect this. You don't have to get it right. You don't have to achieve some final state of enlightenment or have your whole life figured out. The Taoist path is not about perfection. It's about flow. It's about each moment being a new opportunity to let go a little bit more, to resist a little bit less, to trust the process a little bit more. The river does not worry about whether it's flowing correctly. It does not fret about its destination. It simply flows, moment by moment, responding to the terrain, moving downstream. And somehow, it always reaches the sea. You can live like this too. Let me return, one final time, to the metaphors that have guided our entire conversation, because they hold a wisdom that will serve you going forward. The river has passed through countless bends. It has flowed through beautiful valleys and harsh canyons. It has been clear, and it has been muddy. Each moment of the river's journey is real and true, and part of its story. But the river does not cling to any of it. It does not say, "I must be the river that flowed through that canyon forever." It simply moves forward. The water that flowed yesterday is not trapped in yesterday. It has moved on. And the river that flows today is the same river. And yet it is entirely new. Your life is like this. Your past is real. It matters. It has shaped you. But it is not a prison. It is not something you must destroy. It is simply water that has already flowed downstream. And you, the you that is here right now, in this moment, you are the river that flows today. You are the same river, and yet you are entirely new. You have never been trapped. You were only resisting. And the uncarved block, that simple, whole, authentic nature of yours, it is still there. It has never disappeared. Beneath all the carvings, beneath all the identities, beneath all the stories you've accepted about who you are, there is something pristine and alive and true. It is not damaged. It is not destroyed. It is only waiting for you to stop fighting, to stop building, to stop trying to become something you are not. It is waiting for you to remember. The Tao Te Ching, that ancient repository of wisdom, reminds us, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Perhaps the ultimate self-transformation you seek is not a destination you must fight to reach, But a homecoming you simply allow. The path to a new beginning is not a path forward into some distant future. It is a homecoming to the present moment. It is a recognition of what is already true. You are not broken. You do not need to be destroyed and rebuilt. You need only to stop resisting. You need only to let the river flow. And here is my final gift to you. The thought I hope you carry with you beyond this moment. The most powerful thing you can do for your rebirth, the most courageous act you can take for your spiritual growth, is not to fight harder, or push further, or build something new. It is to stop. It is to breathe. It is to acknowledge the past with gentleness and gratitude. It is to release it without resistance. It is to become comfortable with emptiness, with the spaciousness of not knowing exactly who you're going to be. It is to trust the flow of your own life. Let go, and let the river flow. Your past self is not your enemy. It is a ghost that dissolves the moment you stop feeding it with resistance. Your future self is not something you need to forcefully construct. It is something that naturally emerges when you stop building and start allowing. And your present self, the self that is here right now, reading these words, you are already whole. You are already home. Taoism does not ask you to achieve anything. It asks only that you remember who you already are. And that, my friend, is the greatest rebirth of all.